We are so back. Welcome to your first checkered flag of the season. My name's Harry Benjamin. Joining me is former Formula One driver Jolyon Palmer. Also got ex-McLaren F1 mechanic Marc Priestley. We're here at Mercedes HQ in Brackley in the Silver Arrows room. And we've got Lewis Hamilton's, I think we worked this out, 2018?
2018. And how big is that car?
It's so wide.
Yeah.
You really don't... The pictures didn't do it justice back then, but it's a pretty awesome backdrop for our first checkered flag of the season. Thanks for joining me, guys. Jolyon, 24, ready to do it all over again?
Yeah, I wintered okay, you know. I had a little bit of time off, had a holiday, and then I've already been to pre-season testing, but I'm raring to go. A lot of teams and drivers didn't have much winter at all, so 24 might be a lot by the time we get to December, but we're all fresh now.
Well, I'm relieved knowing that you're well rested, at least.
Are you well rested, Harry?
I am well rested, actually. I did winter well as well. Bit of beach time, bit of hot weather. Really does.
I'm glad we've all wintered well.
Yes, it's lovely, isn't it?
Where did that come from? Wintering well.
Wintering well, isn't that? I feel like it's some sort of. It's a term. It's a very British term. We'll roll with it. But look, no one cares about our wintering. There has been a bit of scepticism, though, coming into this new Formula One season. Mark, is it as bad as everyone is painting it out to be?
No, it's not. I think there's massive intrigue coming into this season, and I think that's justified. We should all be intrigued because this is literally the biggest technical change I think we've ever had in one go in the history of Formula One, right? So who knows how this is going to go? There's going to be things we could get better, we can improve at. There's going to be things that work really well. What I'm most intrigued about is just to get down to Australia and see what happens. And I think that's the thing. We're going into a season, we have no idea what's going to happen, who's going to come out on top, and that's what you want, isn't it?
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
You open with the most negative question you could possibly find for the start of the year.
Well, there's a lot of scepticism going into it.
There is, and I think a lot of it is unfounded, really. I was in Bahrain, like I said, and went trackside. The cars look good. They are, I mean, there's massive changes, as Mark explained, both on the chassis side, so that your car design, the ground effects of last generation have gone, the downforce then is a little bit less. But the bigger thing is the power units. So now we've got a much bigger emphasis on the electric motor, so it's a pretty much 50-50 split, electric power versus combustion engine power. So it's different, but honestly, watching trackside, it still looks like Formula One. It still looks really good. The drivers are working. The cars are sliding around more. And who knows what the pecking order is going to be.
That is exciting. Okay, I thought I'd start negative so we could then build it back up again. So it gives us a good place to go to.
The negative's just been quashed straight away.
Exactly, that's what we wanted, isn't it? Look, we've got so much to discuss throughout the course of this show. As Jolyon and Mark have both alluded to already, massive regulations overhaul. So we're going to discuss the new rules and regs in a bit more detail. We're going to be hearing, too, from reigning world champion Lando Norris. Can he maintain that title this year? We've got a rookie on the grid as well. British rookie Arvid Lindblad. So we'll be catching up with him and his plans for the season. We'll introduce you to a new member of our checkered flag team as well. That's coming up later on in the show. We'll look ahead to the new season and give our predictions, and we'll answer some of your questions that you've sent in as well on the hashtag BBCF1. But first, Jennie Gow, let's head over to you as we've touched on, a new era for Formula One. There's the technicals and the regulations, but as I said, there's a new F1 face in Arvid Lindblad, but we've got new teams as well on the grid.
Well, we've got Cadillac coming in. That's the big news, the 11th team. Where Sauber were last year, now it's Audi. And we have a new circuit for 2026 as well. Madrid, we're going there. So watch this space. And watch this space as well, because I'm going to be speaking to Bradley Lord at Mercedes, who was one of the people that can tell us a lot about what's going on in this team. So come back soon.
We shall do. There is a lot to discuss. We're going to run over time, I think, and we're not going to have enough time. But that's why we're here after every single race this season. But we're going to talk about the rules and regs in depth now. So, actually, no, before I come to you guys, Lando Norris, the world champion, has been speaking to us and explaining the rules in the simplest way possible. Let's hear from him.
I'll try and make it simple. It's... So basically this year we just have a much bigger battery unit and effectively almost a smaller engine in some ways. And that just makes things harder on track in managing the battery mainly. So when we're behind the wheel, it's not as simple as just saying we're driving as flat out and only thinking about the corners, we're also having to think quite a bit about how we can use our battery in a defensive way and also attacking ways. And that's just the rules. That's just what F1 have said. This is what we're going to do. And as a driver, we just have to oblige and go, okay, this is the car we've got. How can we make the most of that? So in essence, the cars are going to be like quicker in a straight line, slightly slower in the corners. But a lot of these things, I think, are aimed at also trying to make more racing happen, more situations where you're having to defend and attack, and being able to catch people off guard in better ways this year than you have been in previous years. I think that's as simple as I can make it. It's a lot more complicated when you're behind the wheel, and I think that's that's our challenge as drivers, and also my team, my engineers that I work with, in figuring out how to make the car work in the best way and manage all these things in the most simple way. So it's complicated.
Lando Norris there, explaining the very complicated rules. Marc, anything to add? Has he nailed it there?
It's such a complicated set of rules. And if you're a team and a driver, if you're in the competitive sense here, there's been so much to do. I mean, you talk about wintering well. Their winter has been very difficult because they've had to figure this out. Not just the technology, but now we've developed and produced this technology. It's in these cars. Now we've got to work out how to use it. So as Lando alluded to there, we've now got almost a 50-50 split between the electrical side and the combustion engine. That's how we're going to deliver the power through these cars. So it's a hybrid car, much like the ones that many people at home will be driving around in. But we've got much more on the electrical side to play with now. We've also got smaller cars. We referenced how big this 2018 car is behind us. This year, even from last year, they've shrunk in size. And that has had the effect of making them hopefully more nimble around the racetrack, a bit more drivable, which is great, but also a lot less downforce. There is a lot less downforce coming from the size of the wings, the size of the floor. So we've got a car that's got huge power, not enough grip. That's going to be interesting. We're going to see cars sliding, we're going to see wheels spinning up, but the power comes in a very, very different way. And that's the thing that Lando's referencing there, how they have to manage the deployment of all of the energy they have coming from a petrol tank and a combustion engine and an electrical battery and electric motor. It's a different way of going racing.
But Palmer, are we going to get good racing? Like, why have we done this? Why have we hit the big reset button almost? So you've seen testing. Are we going to get wheel-to-wheel action? Are we going to see lots of overtakes? Is this what it's all for?
Well, it's for sustainable reasons as well, moving towards 50-50 split, more electric power, bigger emphasis on hybrid, the road relevance and all of that. Sustainable fuels are a side thing that are in amongst a huge amount of different changes as well. So there's a bigger picture here, and the F1 regs have been changed every so often throughout the history, really. So it's not necessarily purely to spice the racing up, but hopefully it will spice the racing up a little bit as well. So the pecking order will likely be different from last year, but the racing will also be different. There's no DRS, which is a major change, actually, in terms of how races are run on Sundays. For anyone tuning in, watching, you'll be able to see what looks like DRS working, but it's now called active aero, and that's where the rear wing and the front wing both have a flap down to basically reduce drag. But everyone does that all of the time. So there is no gain, really, in doing that. That's just something that happens, and it means that the speed comes up on the straights. To overtake now, there is something called overtake.
No.
Yeah, you won't believe it. But this is the new DRS, basically. So if you're within 1 second of the car ahead, it gives you extra energy that you can deploy effectively. So you'll need to recharge, you'll need to harvest the energy, but then you get a little bit more that you can deploy. And so effectively your overtaking tools are done now on the battery. Formula 1 2026 is going to be quite a lot about the battery. That's what Lando was explaining. That is the massive emphasis. Yes, the cars are different. There's less downforce. They're more nimble. They're different to drive. The ways of engineering is different. There's no ground effect. It's very different. But the biggest thing is the power units. And if we get good racing or not, it's going to come down to energy deployment, harvesting energy, and being tactical with when you use it.
And I think the argument for good racing here is that we're going to have, in previous eras, you sort of build a car as a team, you drop it onto the racetrack at the first race, you sort of know the pecking order because everyone's got a certain amount of performance. Yeah, you tweak it and you improve it over the year. But during a Grand Prix, we know that this car's fastest, this car's slowest. what's going to happen this year is that performance is going to swing dramatically even during a lap, let alone a race, as the battery depletes and then is recharged and through the harvesting process. You bear in mind, half of your power is coming from that battery. So you could find a point in a lap where a car has a depleted battery, having used it all down the straight. If someone else has got a full battery, they've got twice as much power as you. That could provide some really interesting racing.
That's the hope. So there's people listening in will probably be like, this all sounds so confusing, it's complex, and kind of those two are both true. But there will be some racetracks as well where you'll barely notice the difference, because energy harvesting will be really easy in the corners. When there's big braking zones, the drivers can recharge the battery. When there's short straights, they don't deplete the battery so much. So there'll be many tracks where it's still Formula One, just with more power and less downforce, which will be fun. But in those races, it will actually be harder to overtake. When it's difficult to manage the battery, you'll get better chances to overtake. So somewhere like Melbourne, to tee up for the first race, it's going to be really difficult to charge the battery, because you haven't got big braking zones. The track was changed a few years ago to make it faster. And that means that the speeds are higher. There's a lot more time on the straight. They took out the fiddly chicane that I famously hated. Turns 9 and 10, maybe that's why they did it. So now it's all high speed. And it means that the energy management is going to be huge there. So if anyone even tunes in for the first race, it's going to look a bit different, and I don't know what it's going to do to the racing.
If you were still driving, Jolyon, would you be looking forward to this new regulation, all the new tactics? Because it feels like there's going to be a lot on the driver here, and how they manage the deployment and harvesting and recharge and all these new terms that we're going to get to grips with.
It will really favour a thinking driver. I don't know, I think I would have quite enjoyed the challenge of being the thinking driver. So if you think that you can gain something, then of course it benefits you. The driving styles will be quite different as well. And the drivers are all getting to terms with sort of cars harvesting energy at the end of straight, so they don't have all the power all the straight, because they need to regenerate power to the battery. You know, it's really complex, but I like the idea that there's some sort of high-speed chess. So on one straight, if you want to go for the overtake, you have overtake mode, and you try and go for it. You don't get it for free. So with DRS, you just get it for free. You press the button, the rear wing opens, and now you've got extra speed. You get a little bit more battery, but you still have to deplete your battery. So if you overtake someone, they might be saving, and they just zip you back on the next straight.
I'm intrigued. I cannot wait to see how this... I think it's just so many unknowns, even for some of the teams who are still scratching heads right now. You can believe that. They haven't got this figured out completely yet. So many unknowns. I can't wait to see how it works out.
And that's the thing. I think we'll get to Australia, and we'll see whatever comes our way, and then it will could be a totally different picture a week later in China, or even 5 races in by the time we're rocking up to Miami and places like that.
I think that's going to be the thing, right? We always talk about the development rate of some of these teams, and they are so good at bringing performance to the car. Normally, that's in sort of aerodynamic upgrades. They're the bits we often see. There's so much to learn here, both aerodynamically and on the chassis side. As Jolyon said, big changes in that regard. But this power unit, this hybrid system, and the way it operates, there's so much to learn. Even without bringing technology, there's so much to learn and performance to be gained in just how you use it.
So there will also be people that are thinking, oh, this sounds, is it a bit gimmicky, having this sort of 3D chess, just get the drivers to go and race. But DRS came in and was sort of gimmicky as well. But we got used to it. But the drivers also had to get used to that as well. And do you remember the sort of DRS games that we'd see play out, where you'd say, oh no, I don't want to overtake you here, I'm going to wait, and I'm going to try and get you on the next straight, because if I pass you, there'll be another detection, and you can get past on the following straight. So all of this stuff's going to be back into play, where the first race, 22 drivers will line up on the grid. They won't really know how to necessarily go about overtaking in the best way. They'll figure it out. They'll probably watch the race afterwards, or they'll listen to your great commentary, Harry, I'm sure.
Absolutely, thanks, Jolyon.
And they'll be like, oh, that was actually pretty clever from so-and-so. I'll try that the next one. But then someone will get on top of that, and it's a snowball effect in the early days.
And it's why we love Formula One at the end of the day, isn't it? Is it a bit... On a surface level, is it a bit Mario Kart-y, where you're sort of sliding and drifting through the corners and building up that kind of nitro, and then you're boosting, and then you get that power down the straights when it comes to sort of trying to think about how we're harvesting and deploying the energy? Because that's going to be the biggest thing when we're watching on the TV screens at home. That's the biggest thing we want to try and see happening.
Yeah, I mean, look, Max Verstappen's already called it Formula E on steroids, so that's his view on that. But I think, look, you've got to understand, Formula One's always been developing and changing over the years. All the people that are shouting in my socials right now, and I'm sure yours, bring back V10s, you know, I want to go back to the 80s. Well, even back then, we weren't just going flat out from start to finish. You're managing tyres, you're looking after your gearbox. There's always something to manage as a driver. This is just another different set of those things.
These things will not look like Mario Kart.
Yeah,
trust me. I get the
Mario Kart at a couple of kilometres an hour, 100 kilometres an hour.
When I was standing trackside in Bahrain for testing, it looks like Formula One. It doesn't look that different. What you notice is they are rocket ships on the exit of corners. So in seconds, there are just, I don't know, 5 upshifts, just straight through the gears, because there's 1,000 horsepower and the torque now is massive. I was speaking to a couple of the drivers, and they are wide-eyed, and they're telling me the power is insane coming out of the corners. That's fun. That's fun. They're having to handle snappy cars with less downforce. Yes, there will be a little bit of battery management varying from circuit to circuit, but there's a lot of it that is a proper challenge for the drivers too.
And they generally, I know there's not a lot that's been shaved off the width and the wheelbase, but they do look smaller visibly when you see them on the TV screens. For anybody who was able to watch testing, they look more fun just visibly to watch, and that's good to see. I just want to get slightly technical, if I may, because I think we need to say 2 words which are probably banned in these parts, and I wonder if, Mark, you could just sort of explain compression ratio and why the groans collectively. I think we need to cover it off and just explain why that's been a bit of a controversy and where we're at with it now.
Well, look, I'll do my best in the simplest terms, right? But in the regulations this year, we've had a change to the compression ratio that's allowed within your engine. Now, that means effectively how much stuff you're allowed to squash inside the cylinder down into the combustion area, right? It's become less than it was last year. There is talk amongst some of the teams that maybe Mercedes, potentially others, have found a way through thermal expansion of materials so that when they do the test, when the FIA carry out their test in cold temperatures, they pass that 16:1 compression ratio limit. But when the car's out on circuit running at temperature, as materials expand, that compression ratio is allowed to expand higher than that, therefore giving more performance. That's been the controversy of the winter. A lot of talk about potentially changing rules later in the season. So this is one to watch. We still don't know how much of a performance advantage, if any, this has given the team that we sit here in front of today, Mercedes. But it's been a story, so we'll keep an eye on it.
We will, and I'm sure Andrew Benson will be reporting on it on the BBC Sport website as well. Thank you, Mark, for explaining that so eloquently. Right, we're going to go over to Jennie Gow now, I think, who is speaking with one of the big bosses at Mercedes.
Yes, thanks, Harry. I'm here with Bradley Lord, team representative at Mercedes. Now, Bradley, testing went well. I think it's fair to assume that, but there are some gremlins, aren't there?
Yeah, there are. I mean, testing did go well. I think we did the most miles of any team, but it was far from trouble-free. Not unexpected, the start of brand new regulations with the scale of change we've had. But I think, like most of our rivals as well, we're sort of heading to Melbourne with a long list of things that could trip us up, and we're trying to work through them and tick them off as quickly as possible.
A lot of people are talking about these challenges for this year. Some are very excited about it, some are a bit apprehensive about what we're actually going to see. So how has the team approached these big changes?
I mean, it's been years of work. I think we started in the middle of 2022 on the power unit, certainly early in 2024 on the sort of concepts and designs of the cars. So it's been a massive project to get this far. There have been, I think, a lot of negative expectations around the cars and the rules so far, many of which have proven unfounded. I think for those who were trackside in Bahrain, you had louder engines and a sort of better noise from the cars. They're a real handful off the corners. There's way more power than there is grip. They're like rocket ships down the straights, thanks to the SLM mode as well. There will be some changes.
SLM mode, you just have to say what that is.
Yeah, straight line mode. So the active aerodynamics that reduce the drag and help to keep the lap times close to where they were last year. There is going to be some change in how we go racing, owing to the challenges of the energy management, how we recharge and then deploy that energy from the battery. But that's a bit of a journey into the unknown, and I think everyone's quite excited to see how it pans out in racing conditions, how the drivers cope with the pluses and minuses of that, and how they can adapt to take advantage, really, of the situation.
So when it comes to this season, obviously George Russell, Kimi Antonelli back in the cars. Who do you think has got the upper hand?
Oh, that's not a very fair question to ask, is it?
Yeah, but that's
my question.
They've
both had a really good winter. Look very evenly matched, as you would hope for and as you would expect. There's a lot of positive expectation for George, I think. He's, obviously one of the standout drivers of last season, very much ready to take on a title challenge if we can give him the car to do that. I think he would back himself and is feeling very confident about that. As for Kimi, it's second season. He's kind of unrecognisable from the driver that turned up 12 months ago and was very wide-eyed, and everything was new for him and everything was happening for the first time. So we're excited to see them competing very closely and hopefully doing it at the front of the field.
I think a lot of people think that you guys might be the favourites for this year. I've spoken to a lot of fans. They're heavily backing you at the minute. Is that a moniker you would like, or would you prefer to be the underdogs?
I think in F1, at the start of new regs in particular, everyone is always looking to put the pressure somewhere else. So all of our rivals are talking us up. We're determinedly saying, well, Ferrari look very strong, Red Bull look very strong, McLaren look very strong, which is what our numbers are showing. So there's also the precedent of 2014, the last big engine regs change that Mercedes got absolutely right. The team at Brixworth at HPP did an incredible job. So I think we can live with the expectation. We understand that pressure's being applied to us, and then it's up to us to go out there, make the most of what we've got, and hopefully, put on a really good showing.
Well, good luck this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, the big thing we all want to know, who's quickest? Who's going to win Melbourne? What's the pecking order? Jolyon, you were out in testing.
I'm glad you went to him
Yeah,
first.
I'll give you a break, because he was at Bahrain, to be fair. It feels like, and what from everybody's saying, the top 4 teams, the usual suspects, are all in that sphere, but we can't quite pin them in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4 yet, or can we?
No, we can't. They're all close. They're all pointing to each other being the quickest. So to break it down, Charles Leclerc was the quickest, and Ferrari looked pretty good. Leclerc, at the end of testing, did a load of laps that were basically quali-sim laps. But even before that, he'd looked pretty sensible in the Ferrari. And so he grabbed the headlines. But a lot of people are thinking that Mercedes still have some more pace in hand. And they were holding back. They didn't do any headline-grabbing times. They didn't really do any long runs when I was out there in Bahrain either. So they were obviously pretty happy with where things were at. McLaren and Red Bull, somewhere close as well. But maybe just a tiny bit adrift of those two is the feeling. But we are very liable to be surprised in Melbourne.
Oh, could it be, Mark, Ferrari and the year? If no one's seen that amazing video of the practice start, didn't they? And Lewis Hamilton absolutely roaring through to the lead by turn 1 from starting like midway through the pack, because of how powerful that.
He started 9th, by the way.
I think 9th to first by turn 1. I think even the Haas of Ocon with the Ferrari power absolutely was like a rocket ship as well. It's the year of the horse.
Yeah, I know.
Are the stars aligning?
Well, do you know what? I think I totally agree with what Jolyon just said. It's too difficult to call really at this point, but we do know that Ferrari, do have a much better car as things stand. What's going to be interesting is, as I said before, these swings in performance are going to happen quite dramatically as people figure this stuff out. That start you're referencing was early in testing. By the end of testing, it felt a lot closer, that everyone was getting on top of how they, deploy their energy to get off the line, how they get the power down, get the turbo spinning up. So many intricacies. But also, the new cars are going to suit certain drivers more than they're going to suit others. Even a driver like Lewis, who struggled in the last generation of cars, maybe this type of car suits him a little bit better. It's a more nimble, slightly lighter, smaller car. Maybe it comes back towards his driving style. So the teams are one thing in the pecking order. The drivers within that could be shuffled around as well.
I think the other thing as well, though, on top that I've quite enjoyed seeing, I think just to go back for Ferrari's perspective as well, Jolyon, and all the cars look different, I think, in certain areas, and you can see developments already out from the first Bahrain test to the second Bahrain test. You spoke about the active aero earlier, and we have straight line mode where the rear wing and the front wing effectively open. They all open slightly differently, and Ferrari brought a wing that pretty much flipped completely 180 degrees round.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive to see, like almost the sort of the dare of Ferrari to bring such a intuitive design in these early stages.
It blew my mind when I saw that in testing.
And that takes a lot.
Yeah, it does, because I've watched a lot of Formula One cars. I've seen a lot of modern day Formula One, where I know in the past, there was a Tyrrell that ran with 6 wheels. There were all sorts
Didn't do it for Palmer.
No, it blew my mind. It was about 20 years before I was born, so it didn't have a chance to blow my mind. But Innovation has been much smaller. So Mercedes actually came up with something called DAS a few years ago, which was also one of these wow moments in testing, where they're able to change the front geometry from a pull of the steering wheel. But even then, just seeing this Ferrari rear wing, where it literally, so when they activate what looks like DRS, it's now called is active aero, straight line mode. But the wing just, it flips, inverts upside down, which means that they're going to get a better top speed, effectively, less drag. I don't even know if they'll run it. They literally did it for one lap of testing, came back in the pits, changed it back over, and then we never saw it again. But it was enough for them to get some data, enough for us to get a good look at it and replay it out to the world so everyone else has seen it. Pretty cool innovation.
I love stuff like that. And actually just looking at the rear wings alone, I think there's 3 or 4 different routes that teams have gone down in how they activate that active aero. So the way that these flaps pivot, Ferrari were by far the most extreme. I loved it. I love the fact someone's daring enough and bold enough to come up with something that seems on the face of it to be so crazy. They may or may not use it because there's going to be compromises. There are a number of penalties probably in terms of the weight between that mechanism that you have to activate something like that. You can imagine if a wing's flipping completely 180.
It might actually take off.
Well, it's at one point it's vertical. You know, when it reattaches, it's vertical for a moment as it comes back round. That creates massive drag, which helps with the braking phase, the slowing down, but also puts massive load on it. So there's all sorts of factors to figure in. It's a brilliant innovation. Love seeing it, like Jolyon said. Whether they bring it or not, and we see it again, no idea.
They get some up thrust. Start overtaking left or right. Ferrari is just going to go over the top. Yeah. Shut it, get on the ground again and hit the brakes.
Quite literally off to a flying start for Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. I mean, there's a lot of positive rumblings coming out of Ferrari from testing.
Yeah.
Of course, we're not going to know until, well, qualifying in Australia where they're actually at. But Lewis Hamilton, Jolyon, particularly seemed... well, much more jovial than he was after the first Bahrain test and the shakedown in Barcelona as well that they did earlier too. But where do we think Lewis Hamilton is coming into this season? Because one thing I wanted to pick up on was, if I'm right, at the time of recording, he had a race engineer last year that is now no longer his engineer for this year. He's had almost a temporary one for testing, with still no announcement about who the man in his ear is going to be this year. That to me seems like quite a big question mark to have looming over such a big year in Formula One.
You are right, yeah. He has a temporary interim race engineer who's a race engineer that has worked with Ferrari before, worked with Kimi Räikkönen there, and has a lot of experience. He's been in the back office at Ferrari. But he's gone away from his race engineer from last year, and he's expecting to get a new permanent one coming up. But it's not good for Lewis, really, to have that level of doubt and a change of personnel before such a difficult set of regulations to get your teeth into. Communication is going to be so important. There's going to be information overload, I think, for the drivers. So you want to build up a rapport with your race engineer. You want to know each other inside out. And Lewis hasn't got that. So he was a bit jovial in the last Bahrain test, but I don't know. Ferrari looked good, but I thought Leclerc looked really good as well, and Lewis is going to be up against him.
I was just going to say, unless it's someone that Lewis already knows. Maybe we don't know who it's going to be, and maybe he already has a relationship with that person.
Hint,
well,
Bono.
I don't think it's going to be Bono.
I saw him walking out with a backpack on earlier.
But, you know, it's not going to be Bono, but it could be somebody. It may be that it's not starting from scratch, but I agree. It's such a key relationship, and they're going to be starting late with that, potentially.
Yeah, well, it's one of the big stories we'll be following. Also, we should touch on Red Bull, part of this top four gaggle. Max Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar, their lineup. But also the first time that they are developing and produce their first powertrain, Red Bull powertrains, in partnership with Ford, another massive brand coming back into Formula One. And Mark, this partnership seems to have generally impressed the paddock after their pretty much seamless run through testing.
I think more than impressed, blown away. Most people...
Well, hang on, we know Palmer doesn't get blown away by much.
I saw a smile from Palmer when I mentioned Red Bull earlier. That's about as big as it gets from him. But I think they've done an unbelievable job, not just because it's the first time, but actually midway through last year, if you spoke to people who were connected to that project, they weren't full of confidence. They were behind schedule, they were running a little bit late, they were having all sorts of problems and dramas. We get to the first test and it feels like not only have they got a reliable power unit, they've got a powerful one that at the moment, a lot of the drivers are saying has the best electrical deployment of anyone on the grid. So far, it looks like an amazing job.
Well, we'll see how they get on. And lastly on this one, Jolyon, McLaren, we haven't mentioned them already, but are we actually underestimating them a little bit? Because they're the reigning champions. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, but no one's going, yeah, no, everyone's saying George Russell, Mercedes, Ferrari. But are we actually missing something here with McLaren?
I think we're underestimating them, definitely. They're very happy for everyone to underestimate them. It's how they've basically existed for the last few years when they've been very good. They have the Mercedes power unit, which seems to be probably the best one overall. It's certainly not going to be a hindrance to them having that. They have proven in the last couple of years that they can develop the car kind of better than anyone in the last set of regs. So the downforce will be generated in a different way this year. But even then, the correlation between what they're able to put in the wind tunnel versus what goes on the car and gives them performance, it's proven to be very good. So they've got, I think Lando and Oscar is a very good driver pairing for them.
Yeah.
They are not going to be far away. So I thought it might be Mercedes v Ferrari just at the front, but McLaren certainly could be there. And I'm not. You just can't rule out Max Verstappen, can you? He could make the difference from Red Bull being sort of ordinary to being race winner straight away.
Well, Red Bull, the car could be fourth fastest, but actually Max Verstappen will put it second or third.
Right, it could be eighth, and Max Verstappen can win. I think we've seen that now.
And do you know what we should say here is this year with so many new complications and new rules, new things to get their head around, the teams that have the slickest operation are likely to come out of this on top. If you look back over the last few years, Red Bull have been right up there as one of the best. Even though they didn't win the championship last year, I'd say operationally, you could probably argue they might have been the best team last year. So that bodes well for them.
Well, let's hope it's tight in the top four at least. Let's hear from our world champion again, shall we? Lando Norris sat down with Natalie Perks prior to testing in Bahrain and gave his thoughts on how open the title race will be this season and whether the order at the top will be tighter than ever.
I think it's an opportunity for everyone. And we were fighting for the constructors and also for the drivers for a long way into the season. And, I won the championship by 2 points. And 2 points could easily have been if we didn't bring that final upgrade or that final piece to the car. Somewhere along that way, I could have lost 2 points, one position. So, it's there's a lot of focus then, and you had some teams able to care less about the end of the season and just switch their focus to this year a bit earlier than what we were maybe able to do. But it's hard to know. I think you're still going to most likely see the top four teams that you have seen for a while being the most competitive. But you can easily also see some surprises from some of the other teams who have been able to focus a lot more on this year solely and kind of forget about last year a bit more. So it's an exciting one because I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like, but we've worked hard to try and obviously give ourselves the best chance to repeat what we've done the last few years, to fight for wins, to fight for championships. And I'm hoping that's going to be the case.
Lando Norris speaking there. Right, earlier I promised I would introduce a new member of the checkered flag team for this year, and I always keep my promises, so please give a very warm checkered flag welcome to Izzy Hammond. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's nice to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Now, we are in vision on the BBC Sport website, but we are also on BBC Sounds on Checkered Flag podcast, and for those of you listening, cannot see that Izzy is actually having to stand on a box.
I'm stood on a pelly case.
Yeah, how tall are you?
I'm 4'11".
And I'm 6'5". So
brilliant
this
combo.
is a match made in heaven.
Yeah, really
But I tell you what, being small is actually quite good for being a racing driver.
I knew that was going to get brought up.
And we have to address the elephant in the room. And
Sure.
actually, so Max Verstappen said about these cars, the new generation of Formula One cars, they're a bit like Formula E on steroids.
Yes.
Now, you're actually, out of everybody on the panel today, and that includes a former Formula One driver, you're the one with the most recent racing experience, having raced around, was it the Jeddah track in Saudi Arabia?
It was the Jeddah track.
In a Formula E car.
Yes.
But you did find the wall.
It didn't go well.
No.
No, it didn't go well. I did hit a concrete wall
But you're fine.
accidentally. I'm absolutely fine. Yeah, I jumped out, walked away, not a problem. Car was less fine.
But, it's all part of the learning. How was it being in a single-seat racing car that literally just been racing that weekend?
Yeah, just come off the back of a double header, actually, in Jeddah. So, it was pretty amazing. It was probably the best kind of few minutes of my life until, obviously, I hit the wall. Then it was less fun. But it was an unbelievable experience.
Now,
yeah.
I heard somewhere that you went to university, but if you could do your time again, you'd bin that off and you'd try and be a racing driver and
Absolutely.
try and sort of be an F1 Academy now, the all-female racing series. Is
Absolutely.
this giving you more hope for that?
Well, I don't know if it's given me more hope. I'm thinking maybe I made the right decision by not doing that. But it was so much fun. Don't regret it. Would do it again. Maybe try and practice a bit more. Maybe try and steer a bit more, brake a bit. Would have been good.
Those all sound like things you should do.
Yeah. In the moment, a little bit more difficult. Turns out, yeah, it's quite difficult to do.
Well, I don't envy you. I don't think I'd be able to fit in the car anyway. But
No, you wouldn't actually.
There's definitely some content gold to be had there at some stage. But we should also say you're a content creator. People will know you from Drive Tribe and doing Quadrant, Lando Norris's Quadrant stuff as well.
Yes.
And you are an F1 fan. So talk to me. What have you made of sort of all the build-up to this 2026 season, which feels like it's going to be like no other?
It's very exciting, isn't it? There's a lot of people talking about a lot of things. It's just quite overwhelming. No, I'm super excited. I think having a couple of new teams on the grid is going to be amazing. Audi particularly, for me as a car, sort of road car person, that's really exciting. Having a manufacturer like that on the grid again, that's going to be amazing. Lots of young people. Arvid, I put Arvid in his first F1 car.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
You're responsible for him being a Formula 1 driver?
And I broke it immediately.
How?
Yeah, it's kind of a running theme with me in these cars. I do tend to break them. I was doing some stuff with Red Bull, and we popped him in a car, and he did his first sort of up and down in Texas, and then they just made him do donuts all day. That was the first thing he had to do in the F1 car, and I was there. I sort of put him in and strapped him in and pulled the pin out, broke it. Yeah. But then he did great.
And now he's a Formula 1 driver, so
it was all me, really.
Yeah.
I gave him the confidence to do it.
There is a common theme here, Izzy. Okay,
Yeah.
well, look, you're going to be kind of joining us this year, doing some Chequered Flag podcast, where we're going to leave the sort of tyre strategy and the kind of stuff, we'll leave that on the Chequered Flag post-race shows, which will be there for you in sound and in vision. But we're kind of going to be taking a sort of a sideways look at Formula 1, because there's so much that happens on track, but there's so much that happens off it as well.
Yeah, we're going to do the fun stuff, basically. We'll leave the boring stuff to those guys. We don't need to do that. We'll do the fun stuff.
Exactly. Well, we're going to go back and do the boring stuff in a minute. But
Yeah, fair.
But what that means, we want to hear from you as well throughout the course of the year. Hashtag BBCF1 on X, and you can get in touch. You've got an email as well, f1@bbc.co.uk, because sort of no question is off limits, really.
No,
What are
love
you
it.
most looking forward to what do you want to find out about this year? What's the sort of the burning questions that you have coming into this season?
Just sort of how it all works,
Yeah.
really. It's all a bit complicated. Yeah. I'm quite happy to ask some pretty stupid questions, I'm not going to lie. So I can take that role, and then hopefully we can all learn together, and then we'll know more about it, because it's more fun the more you know. It is more fun to watch if you get really nerdy about it. So
yeah, well, looking
can do
forward to
that.
it. I can't wait to do it as well. So excellent. Good to have Izzy with us for the season, and you're going to be joining us later at the end of the show as well to ask some fan questions that have been sent in. So in the meantime, let's hear from the rookie on the grid this year. Man Izzy knows well, Arvid Lindblad will be racing for Racing Bulls, and he caught up with the BBC F1 correspondent Andrew Benson out in Bahrain, where we hear all about how Arvid is preparing for his debut year.
My paternal side of the family's massive sort of motorsport fan. My grandfather is a massive motorsports fan. He'll watch anything with wheels and an engine, and he did a little bit of motocross with my dad when he was younger. Unfortunately, they couldn't do it for very long, but he sort of passed that passion down to my dad, who passed on to me. So when I was 3, my dad got me a motocross bike, and to be honest, that didn't last very long. It was a bit too much for my mum to see a little 3-year-old on the motocross bike. So that died out quite quickly. But then when I was 5, I went karting for the first time and loved it from the beginning. But I'd say a big sort of turning point for me that I remember very well was when I was about 4. My dad was sitting on the sofa and had the F1 on, and I came and sat down next to him, and was watching the race and sort of asking him, like, is it possible to be there? How could I? How does it work? And that was really the moment when I saw the cars and wanted to be there one day, and that sort of fueled the start of the journey.
Now, you mentioned your mum and your dad there. Obviously, you've got a very interesting backstory in terms of your family. Could you run people through that briefly, what exactly that is?
Yeah, so my dad's from Sweden. He's born and brought up in Sweden. My mum is from the UK, but her parents are from India. They're from the Punjab region. They grew up there and lived there for a big part of their lives. So I have quite a diverse mix. It's quite a rare combination. But yeah, I'm very proud of my heritage. All three parts have really shaped me to who I am today. I've been very exposed to all three, even though my grandparents, have moved to the UK when they had my mum. They're still very traditional Indians, and I've gone through. I've been exposed to a lot of their sort of cultures and rituals, the food, the prayer, all that sort of stuff from an early age, as well as the Swedish, and it's really shaped who I am today.
Arvid Lindblad speaking with Andrew Benson there. And Jennie Gow's joined us, by the way. Hello, Jennie. Welcome back to the panel. Well, let's start with you, Jennie, then. Arvid Lindblad, another British driver to add to the grid. We had, 6 rookies lining up last year, just the one for this year, and it all falls on Lindblad. How are we expecting him to get on?
I am hopeful for him. We knew kind of halfway through last year that he was the most likely to get picked, although they didn't announce it at that point. But I think he's talented. If we look back at Isaac Hadjar, he wouldn't have been anyone's first choice for that seat. But look how well he did when he actually got to that seat. So he's propelled up to Red Bull, and let's see what Arvid could do at Racing Bulls, but he has a lot of potential, and I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, 6th in F2 last year, youngest winner in Formula 2. And actually what's quite interesting is one of his mentors, or his manager, is the Formula E world champion, Oliver Rowland, who's a British driver. I wonder how helpful that could be, Mark.
I think sometimes having a manager who has experience just gives, maybe you'll know this more than me, but just gives you the ability to have conversations knowing that the other person understands what you're talking about from a driving perspective. That's not always the case with a manager-driver relationship. So from that point of view, potentially it could help. The Formula E element, do we want to go back there?
I think he did make the journey after testing, didn't he, or in between, to see the Formula E race in Saudi Arabia, to watch how they all conserve energy. But it's a slightly different type of way of doing it. But I'm sure it will be...
If he suddenly wins a championship, we'll all be saying that was because of the Formula E relationship.
Well,
right?
you never know. Well, he'll be racing for Racing Bulls alongside Liam Lawson. But let's talk about this kind of... We've got the top 4 teams. Then, Jolyon, we think there's a gap. And we have this best of the rest, the midfield. I'm throwing in Haas. I'm throwing in an Alpine, a Racing Bulls, a Williams. Where are we at? Do we have a sort of clear best of the rest?
No, not at all, I don't think. Basically, the teams that you threw in are going to be there. Maybe Williams don't look like they're in a great spot to start the year. But the other 3 teams are close, I think. Haas, Racing Bulls, and Alpine. I'll relist them. I don't know which order they'll be, but I think the key thing is they'll all be fighting for points on the regular, I think, and it'll probably change race to race.
Alpine having the Mercedes engine in them, not saying that just because we're here at Mercedes and the PR guys next to me, but I think that does give them a massive help. Renault were really struggling, and it was a bold move to move away from their own team and go to be a customer team. But actually, we know Mercedes ace power units, and if they can do the same again this year, it looks like they have, then Alpine are right there.
So I'm going to jump the gun. And I know we're going to come to Aston Martin at some point. But Aston Martin have gone away from Mercedes power units, and they've gone to Honda. And I think that shows how sensible Alpine's approach was to ditch the Renault power units that they've basically always had and just say, it's not good enough. We're not going to win with this. Let's just bolt a Mercedes in the back, like McLaren did to win the title last year. And at the least, we'll be competitive. And I having watched testing, seeing how new power unit manufacturers basically are struggling, not that Renault were new, but they would have one team. They would have not the resource probably of Mercedes, and in the last set of rule changes, they fumbled it massively in 2014. It's a great move from Alpine to rebuild as a customer team.
It's an interesting one, though, isn't it? Because they're in Formula One to promote their own road cars. They want to sell more Renault cars off the back of
Alpine's, Mark.
Alpine/Renault. And they're accepting the fact that they can't make an engine good enough, and they're going to go to one of their main rivals in that automotive sector market and borrow the engine from that and go, well, here we go, we are doing well in Formula One now. But I get it, and I think when they have good results in the sport, it will translate into the brand looking good. But it's just an interesting PR move, isn't it?
It is, but in my opinion, it doesn't matter at all. McLaren won the title last year. That helps drive McLaren sales. The fact that they had a Mercedes engine in the back, I don't think anyone cares. McLaren were the champions. The same with when Aston Martin, they had a Mercedes engine in the back. They now have a Honda. They're Aston Martin, powered by Honda. But it's a side note, isn't it? Alpine, if they can win a race, it'll be amazing PR for Alpine. No one's going to be saying, but you should have a Renault in the back. No. Forget it. They'd be at the back if they had a Renault in the back.
Why are Williams not? If they were 5th last year, what was a pretty good year for them, a couple of podiums with Carlos Sainz. Why are they not in the conversation for sort of top of the best of the rest pile?
I think that that's really disappointing for them. And bear in mind, this is just at the beginning, and there's a long way to go here, a lot of development, as we keep saying. But there's been so much focus on 26 for them, building over the last couple of years towards this moment. There's a lot of talk about the car being overweight at the moment, and that's a massive hindrance before you get into any of the actual technology or how your car's performing. If it's overweight, it's slower than it should be. So those things will improve, and they will find ways to shed the weight, to improve all the other aspects of their car, but it's not a great starting point. I think it's going to be a huge disappointment for the guys and girls at Williams who've had so much hope pinned on 2026.
No, it's not the start they wanted, isn't it? And then, well, okay, let's go there. You did jump the gun, but we'll happily go there anyway. I mean, Aston Martin, you think they've got it seems like they've got all the money in the world with Lawrence Stroll backing it, Jolyon, state-of-the-art facilities in Silverstone. This is a team that always used to be kind of the plucky minnows. They were always able to kind of stretch.
Did good with little.
Well, exactly. You know, go back to Eddie Jordan or your Force Indias, your Minardis, your Spikers. That's what this team is born out of, right? And now you think, okay, this is the year. Honda off the back of success with Red Bull, powering them to world championships. And then you put Adrian Newey as the designer of the car, the GOAT when it comes to design in Formula One. You're hiring new engineers. You've got Fernando Alonso in one of your cars. This is the golden ticket. So surely, with the state that they're in after testing, where it looks like they could be last, behind Cadillac, a brand new team, do heads roll, or can they recover in time for Australia?
There's no big heads to roll at the moment. They've all just joined. I look at Aston Martin like Real Madrid assembling the Galacticos. You've got Figo, Zidane, Ronaldo, Bex joins from Man U, and they, 20 years ago, they assemble basically all the best players or title-winning players, and it didn't necessarily work. And it took a bit of time, considering the sum of their parts. The output was, I think they probably did all right, the Galacticos, but not. They weren't. It took a while to tell. No, exactly. And I think Aston Martin right now. You look at Adrian Newey, headline signing, so many titles. Pretty much every car he's ever built has been winning races, titles. Or at the very least, a good chassis. Fernando Alonso is still driving there. He's a two-time world champion, aging a bit, but he is still,
Harsh.
I believe. No, hey, Jennie, we're all aging a bit, to be honest. We're aging at the same rate. But he is going to be 45 this year. In modern F1 standards, that's the oldest driver we've had for quite some time. I haven't done the stats.
Don't want to pin yourself to the mast on that one.
I'll look it up before we get to Melbourne. But time is not on his side, but I still think Fernando's driving at a really high level, and he's a two-time world champion, and he is hungry for it. He doesn't turn up if he's not wanting to put everything into it. And then finally, they've added Honda to the mix, and Honda have really had a good power unit for the last few years. With Red Bull, they've been winning titles. They've managed to turn around a bad start to be, in some ways, the standout power unit. It was all tiny margins, but you thought that is a great signing for Aston Martin. On top of that, Lawrence Stroll, the team owner, has done a huge amount of work upgrading the factory, the wind tunnel, putting everything together at base. And you're thinking, they now, 2026, new set of regulations, they have the designer, they have the driver, they have the factory, and they have the power unit that have won titles. So when you piece it all together and you get the most disappointing winter testing, honestly, that I can maybe remember, certainly for a long time, they're on the back foot, yeah.
So far on the back foot. They're not just slow. I mean, we don't even actually know if they're slow because they haven't done enough laps to prove that or otherwise. They just couldn't even put a handful of laps together. A lot of problems with the power unit, so much so that I think they're so far on the back foot they will go to Australia literally with their fingers crossed, hoping they can get to the end of the race. And even beyond that, you get a car that can get to the end of a race. They've only got one team with that Honda power unit that's done no mileage so far. There's no learning happened. They're so far behind in the data collection and the understanding compared to everyone else. They are miles behind the rest of the field right now.
And that's the problem. Anyone that's starting from scratch is playing catch up. Honda are starting from a little bit behind in terms of the engine product. In terms of the engine project, Newey joined a little bit late, so they're playing catch up on the chassis side. And then for this year, they just hit the ground late, and they have done so few miles. I didn't see the car that much when I was in Bahrain. I can't tell you what it looks like too much because it was in the garage for most of the time. They did 6 laps total on the final day. The Fernando stopped with a power unit issue on day 2. They're just struggling. And if they make the checkered flag in Australia, that will be a good start for them, which is a sad state of affairs.
Well, if you think about my conversation with Bradley Lord at Mercedes, they started their project in 2022. It just goes to show Aston Martin have left it so late. They've brought all the top bods in, but they're way behind, years behind.
And Honda were on the cusp of leaving at one point, and they came back. So, yeah, there is certainly work to do down at Aston Martin. Cadillac, kind of where I think people expected them towards the back, but actually a fairly promising testing program for them.
Further forward than we thought they might be. The reason they didn't get an entry for so long was because they didn't think they were going to be competitive. They've come, they've turned up to testing, they've wheeled it out, they've done some decent laps. I think, for me, they're further along the plan than I expected them to be.
Where did you think they were going to be?
Well, people thought they would be like Aston Martin, not being able to compete at all.
I think they will. I think they will probably be last. But I think
behind Aston Martin. Come on.
They'll be more reliable than Aston Martin. But the car doesn't look like it's got a huge amount of performance. But I guess it's a case of expectation versus reality, isn't it? They're a brand new team. So, you know, I'm not expecting that. No one's expecting them to be anywhere near the points. Or even if they out-qualify anyone, that's all right for a brand new team. They've got 2 drivers that have won races, and it's fine. At some point, we'll say, come on, guys, you need to get on with it and get closer. They've hired a lot of good technical minds. You look in the garage and you see people from other teams with loads of experience that have joined. But yeah, at the start of the year, I think if they're respectable, that's okay.
I think Bottas will be near the back. I'm pretty sure he's got a grid penalty, hasn't he, to serve after his last race with the Sauber team.
Still in play?
I think they have changed the rule, but they can't backdate when they gave him the penalty when it was under that rule. So he got a penalty in his final race with the Sauber team.
If he has a great qualifier.
Yeah, no, imagine he'd pole at 10th. Sorry, mate. Yeah. Well, we'll see. And Audi as well, look kind of in the lower end of the midfield, but again, another solid testing for them too. Right, you have been sending in your questions in droves using the hashtag BBCF1, and I believe, Izzy, you have some for us.
I do have some questions for you all. I hope you're excited to answer them. Let's do it. Number 1, we have, what race circuits should we look forward to in this new era? That's from Alistair. Great question. Hit me.
Australia, because it's the first one.
Absolutely. Other than that, any more exciting ones?
I'm looking forward to Madrid. We've got a new circuit on the calendar. Jenny mentioned it at the start of the show, street track. Bit of an unknown. I'm all for going into the unknown.
Have you looked at the layout of Madrid at all?
Yeah, I don't want to judge it until we see it, but I agree with you, the racing opportunities don't look that great.
I'm just excited to go to every track. Bearing in mind, these cars, we don't know what they're going to do. We don't know how they're going to react specifically to drivers. So every racetrack is going to be hot property, I think. It's going to be exciting to see.
I think that's good on the circuit.
That was good answers, guys. Do you want to know mine, just for fun?
Yeah, go on.
I want to see Monaco, because we've got smaller cars now. So they might look a bit cooler when they're going around and doing their things. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Overtaking at Monaco?
Still not that small, are they?
You never know. They might do something weird. It could be cool. Okay, next question is from Ashley. Which driver do you think is going to surprise us this season? And you can name only one.
Oh,
crikey.
A surprise driver this season. Okay,
good or bad? Good or bad?
I'm going to go in a good way, and I'm going to say my surprise driver of the year will be Isaac Hadjar, for the fact that he will actually be able to show competitiveness within the second Red Bull seat.
It's going to break the curse.
Can you quantify that so we can hold you to it at the end of the season?
So he will be able to finish behind Max Verstappen by only 1 position where possible.
Ooh. That's quite a big claim.
He'll be able to help the team get points.
Okay, good.
All right, you're really rowing back on that.
He'll be able to finish
Get some points.
at least 10th. Yeah. Well, no one else is coming up with anything. Come
Well,
on.
I'll tell you what I'm really intrigued by with a driver, and that's Fernando Alonso, because I'm intrigued to see how far into the season it's going to be before he chucks his first grenade out towards the media when everything's going wrong.
Everyone.
Because it's going to happen. We all know
Australia.
it's going to happen.
Yeah, he's already had a few. He's
We're gonna,
not the
DP2
happiest.
engine again.
I'll say Ollie Behrman, but I don't think it will surprise me if he does well, because I'm kind of expecting it. But I think Haas are looking good, and he finished the last year really well. I think he'll surprise everyone.
I'm going to go Pierre Gasly. I think he was one of my standouts last year, even though the car was terrible. Give him a decent engine and the car looks good. I think he'll win a race.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
That's my news.
Gasly to a race.
I didn't know if you could up Harry's prediction of
Of course I can.
but wow.
Izzy, who are you going for?
Who am I going for?
Yeah.
You've stolen mine. I was going to go for Hadjar as well.
Oh, we can share it.
Okay,
but
we'll share him. I think he's going to break that curse. I think he's going to do it. I back
Someone's
him.
got to.
Someone's got to. Okay, final question. I'm going to combine two into one. So this is from Isaac and from Tatty. So can Hamilton win number 8 this season, or is George Russell taking home the championship? It's a savage either or, but you've got to make a decision.
Oh, that's a bit black and white, though, isn't it?
I think that's the problem. It's too black and white. Can he do? The first question is, can he beat his teammate, right? Because even if Ferrari have a world championship winning car, can he beat Charles Leclerc? And I still think that is a really tall order, even for the might of Lewis Hamilton. But I really do think he's a lot happier. I think these cars are going to suit him better. So I do think it's going to be a much closer battle. The difference between Mercedes and Ferrari, I've still got no idea.
I don't think Hamilton will win number 8 this year. I hope he can win some races. I'd love to see him challenge again. I think there's too much going against him for him to win number 8, but who writes off Lewis Hamilton? Probably a fool.
Well, you just did.
Yeah.
Called Jolyon Palmer.
A fool. But I will go with the second part of that, and I think this will be George Russell's year.
I would love for Lewis to win his 8th. I think a lot of people would say he should have won his 8th already. So it would be poetic justice for him to win his 8th, but do I think he will? He's in a good frame of mind, but I just don't believe that he will this year. And who...
George Russell, can he do it?
Look, we had a big debate about this in Austin. We had a big debate about this in Austin last year. You thought he would. I wasn't so sure. So I'll stick with it. I'm not convinced yet.
Well, thank you very much for all those questions. We'd love to hear from you throughout this season. You can use the hashtag BBCF1 on X, or you can email us any and all questions. It's f1@bbc.co.uk. Right, I know, Palmer, you gave your champion, but just for the sake of it, I want your definitive world champion for 2026, and I'm going to hold you to this all the way to the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi. Marc Priestley,
Thanks.
Who is your world champion?
George Russell.
George Russell. Jolyon Palmer for the tape.
Still George Russell.
Jennie Gow.
I'm going to go bold. I'm going to go Max Verstappen.
Oh, not that bold.
I thought she was going to say
Pierre
Pierre
Gasly.
Gasly. Izzy Hammond.
I'm going Lando Norris, number 2.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he's got another one in him.
And I'm going to go for George Russell as well, world champion. Right, they're locked in until the end of the season. I think we'll see how 2026 unfolds. Really looking forward to it. The F1 season is officially launched, and you can hear live coverage of every session at every race of the 2026 season across the 5 Live network and BBC Sport. Plus, the team will bring you Checkered Flag podcasts, previewing and reacting to every single race, both as a podcast and on YouTube as well. Alongside the team you've heard from tonight as well, we've got all your favourite Checkered Flag names. Back again, 1996 F1 World Champion Damon Hill, Formula E Sam Bird, F1 Academy Champion Abby Pulling, former W Series driver Alice Power, and of course, the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson.
Andrew Benson's one of your favourite Checkered Flag voices.
Didn't say favourite, he's one of them. That just about does it from us. Thank you for your company. F1 is back, the Checkered Flag is back, and Palmer is still here with the sarcastic comments. Order is restored. Thanks, team. We'll see you in Melbourne.